Blessings. This is a part of the animal wisdom storytelling playlist that I've started recently. This is video 2, and it's titled The Dog Who Gave Me What No Human Could. Hmm. So if you're a dog lover, join me in this deep dive storytelling. And if you're somebody who just really appreciates animals in general, there'll be more stories on cats and donkeys and birds and raccoons. I just find animals to be incredibly intelligent. And I, after each video story, that's a real story in real time because I am a shaman, I'm a mystic, I'm a healer. I've had a private trauma practice for over 18 years with family systems. And some of these stories, like today, this is a personal story with me. So I go deep with my Sheltie, but I'm going to share a client story in the middle of this. It's all interconnected. We're all interconnected. When you're healing trauma, you're not doing one module. You're not working on one aspect of your life. And we have trauma specifically in America that is growing extensively. And it's all interconnected because the wars, the wars will not stop until you decide to heal the war within yourself. So I'm Heather Ann Ferri, and I am so excited. I have so much joy in sharing about animals and would love to hear about your journey. So you could put comments of a story about your Sheltie or dog, or just become a part of my mailing list at youmatter108 at gmail.com for events. And there's a lot of things I'm doing offline at this point in time. But thank you for joining. I send you so much love and being here today. And I've been working on this story for about a week now. And my spiritual team says, okay, it's now, just share it. So it's going to be deep. I have to warn you. And it's gonna layer with healing trauma, ancestral traumas as well. When I look at this picture, you know, nowadays people don't take pictures that they can produce and hold anymore. All our pictures are on screens. Well, what happens if something happens to the screen? Will we really know or understand the truth of who we are? Because when I look at this picture of me as a little girl in the first house I grew up in, I had strawberry red hair, which I love. And I'm sitting there with our dog, Candy. And she's very innocent and pure and turning her head away from me a little bit, very shy at that moment. Now, when you're doing trauma work with an expert like myself, we dig into pictures. And it is sad that a lot of people don't have pictures anymore to hold because this is energy. This is memory. This matters to me. Now, there are pictures that I've burned to release, but there's intention behind them. And there are very specific pictures that I kept. And this is one of them. When I look at this little girl, she's pure light, love, loved her family, loved her dog, Candy, sweet, innocent, just a joy. And if you're here, if you're new because you love animals, I am going to get a little deep on this particular story. So uh, I'm kind of warning you, but for those who know me well, I do come from trauma and speak about my childhood abuse. And I think about the innocence of this little girl and what she had to endure every morning. But I'm going to get to that in a moment. I remember in this house, I had a baby carriage, and I would pick Candy up and put her in the baby carriage and stroll her around as if she was my baby. A lot of times our dogs, our cats, our animals are our children. We love them so much. They bring so much unconditional love because unconditional love is there through dark times, right? They're not there to judge us. They're there to be with us. I think that's what makes animals so special. And when I think about her, Candy, in the baby carriage, I think about healing generational childhood abuse from my bloodlines. See, it got deep. I know this is a deep one, but it's an important one. And you may get something that you didn't even think you would get from this video, because we need to value animals, all animals again, as teachers, as messengers, because this animal comes in the last couple of years from heaven, from the other side, whatever you define the other side. So your animal right now may come back when they pass as a messenger. And so when I think of taking care of a baby, it's the way you nurture and love. You don't want to yell, you don't want to raise your voice, you want to protect the innocent. Candy in numerology is 44, the number 44, which I really resonate with my father's passing. He was sick on his deathbed for 44 days. And 4 plus 4 equals 8, and 8 is infinity. I now understand many, many past lives with my father, and I actually now understand more recently about my mother. So it's interesting that this was my brother's dog, even though I feel it was very much a part of being an energy source for both me and my brother. It's interesting that she was named Candy. I don't know who came up with that name. I don't know if it was my brother or my mom. It was one of them. Because as some of you follow me, I talk about the sugar addiction my mother had. After she would abuse me, she would sit at the kitchen table and eat a chocolate cake, a birthday cake, to numb the frontal cortex of her brain from what she did, why she did it, and these entities and possessions, these programs that came from past lives. And then I became a sugar addict. It's usually how it works, right? We follow what we're around. And so I think it's interesting that this particular dog was named Candy. And it's interesting. I spent, I'm a writer. I have a book out called Transcending Victim to Goddess Part 1. And there's a lot of stories, and then there's a lot of questions. I really believe, and it's the talk of the day. Americans need to read, hold books, and write again in cursive. Our children really need to do this in self-reflection and understanding human psychology and human behavior of themselves. So as I was writing, I wrote stories because I might write animal books. I'm not sure yet. Of all the animals that my parents had, all the Shelties, because they carried so many distinct personalities of what was going on within my mom and my dad. So your animal could be mirroring your trauma, taking on your sicknesses. Your animal could be trying to give you a message that you don't understand. Your animal could be healing you, giving you love when you are feeling abandoned. It's an honor to have an animal in your house. It's an incredible gift, but we need to honor the animals on this planet again. And at the end of this video, I'm going to give a call out, because if there's one thing I know about animal lovers is your hearts are more open. Your heart chakra is more open. And give gratitude because it's because of the cat or the bird or the rabbit or the dog in your house. But our animals in America are being violated and attacked in a serious way that's not being spoken about much yet. And I'm going to give you a call to action. So stay tuned. So I started to think about Candy in the last week. And at first I was like, she's not as we'd say as interesting of some of the other dog characters, personalities, behavioral patterns. And then I stepped back from that sort of psychology and thought, maybe Candy is the representation of what all four family members, when they do their own personal generational ancestral healing work, will come into within either this life or the next. And then I was like, huh. Candy wasn't that flashy dog. She wasn't interested in getting attention from the kids on the street or the neighbors. Candy Candy was there in the house holding energy for each individual. And I can only speak for myself today. And she did it for 14 years without getting sick, which is impressive. She did not take on the traumas of each individual, but she did hold space for unconditional love. And she was a witness, in a sense, the way we would imagine God or goddess to be. When we move to what I call more of the karmic land, where I believe my father and my mother, myself and my brother went into past life programs, behavioral patterns without even knowing it. We were a blue collar Pittsburgh family. We didn't grow up with any of these terminologies, right? Simple family, but a lot of trauma. I think about Candy, she witnessed and was the only one that witnessed the severity of the abuse I adored at the hands of my mother from age 8 to 9 every morning. The screams and the programming of shame and putting me down. There was 2 locations that I spent a lot of time in the house. I spent a lot of time in the basement, which was my dance studio that my father created and produced. It wasn't anything fancy, but it was definitely a safe haven. And Candy would sit there for hours and hours every day watching me put on shows, train. And in some senses, I talk a lot in my talks about being Dorothy and the Wizard of Oz, escaping through turning, becoming a world record holder, 16 turns on one foot in tap shoes, spinning to go somewhere else where people are kind and loving and balanced, where we care about our soil and water and we care about our animals and our children, and we take accountability for wrongdoing. And then I think about when these attacks were happening every morning and they were terrifying. When I look at this girl, this little girl, I was terrified. I was frozen. My whole life shattered. It's one thing to have your mother violate you once, but to have that repeat over and over again, that it's the norm. I was afraid of her. She's the last person I should have been afraid of, but I was terrified of her. Was she going to take my life? And I remember in the process of that, people asked me the question in interviews. People have asked me in private coaching, what happened before the first attack? I mean, did you aggravate her? Did you do something? And I was like, no. But then I realized, because I have been in spiritual warfare for a couple years with a couple different tribes, but one in particular that was very harsh in trying to do spells and curses and evil things, that it was my light. It was my genuine kindness and love of just wanting to share it. And the devil doesn't want that. Satan doesn't want that. There is a saying that some people sign the contract to work with Satan. That's not the God that I follow. So be careful when somebody says they're following God. It may not be the same God that you follow. The God that I follow is this dog, Candy. So I vowed to hide my magical light, unconditional love and gifts. And in some ways, my ancestors, the higher ones, took some of those gifts and hid them because they understood how Satan works. I told you this was going to be a deep one. There's another place in my room. I had a big closet with stairs to the attic, and I would play in the closet with my magical friends. Now, we make fun of that, but we now know that a lot of children are very psychic and telepathic. And I was too. And Candy would sit sometimes in the closet as I would talk to my magical angelic friends. Similar to what showed up in the last 2 years with Mr. Rogers and Harriet Tubman and all these different characters that I talk about every now and then that are in my songs and in my work and in my energy of my books and my lectures and just in my presence. So Candy was a witness to my creative, magical self. So as I was staring at this picture, because that's what we do when we're developing ourselves, healing, this is what we do in the trauma work. We look at pictures, and a lot of people can't see, oh, I look really sad here. Oh, my body language is this. Oh, wow. Yeah, this was like, this is the power of looking at yourself. Know thyself. So when I think of the qualities of Candy that were maybe foreign to me until now, Candy was able to hold presence in a really dark space and not lose her energy. Candy was devoted to me and my brother, the children in the house, adding extra love, I think, where needed. Candy had a really strong royal presence about her that was very different than all the other dogs. Some may say snobbish, but because of all of the healing work I've done, and I spend so much time in silence and in nature now, and I'm really comfortable with being by myself, I understand the value and the mastery of silence. Candy had an energy that, in essence, was a bit royal, self-love, because when people have self-love, they walk a little differently. They feel a little different when you're around them. And I had a lot of unconditional love for humanity, for people, for even predators. Maybe too much, but I was still walking around with things that needed to be healed. so that the balance of give and take was very clear, boundaries. So it's interesting because as I went into the trauma coaching field early on, I received a client. And I remember this story because it was unique and it was brave of her to acknowledge it. She shared a story with me that she had been given a puppy. And one day things were going off and she had rage and she took that puppy and she threw it across the room. And she watched as that puppy slowly made its way back to her. Her higher self knew that she was not capable of taking care of this puppy. And so she found a right, the right owner. And she said, I recognized that that puppy loved me unconditionally, but I had so much rage and anger from my childhood abuse, I wasn't able to receive that unconditional love. It takes a lot of courage to really look in the mirror and face that. I didn't judge her for her actions. I'm really glad that she gave the dog up. It's interesting watching my neighbors with their animals. There are a few neighbors that you can tell really love their dogs. It's like their babies. And the dog in particular has been helping them heal, recognizing their selfishness, recognizing that they're giving unconditional love to them and that that's a value. It's an energy source that we need to respect. So I didn't imagine over the years, and I'll be sharing stories about cats and donkeys and all that through working with family systems. I was hired every now and then to work on animals. Animals do tend to heal faster because they don't have really that ego and past life programming that we have analytically. But it doesn't mean they stay healed because if they're sick to awaken their owner, it's to awaken their owner. And so it's interesting, you can tell like certain neighbors, they buy dog food outside of the United States. They spend a lot of money. And why is that? Because the dog food in America is poison. At least that's what they say. I would tend to agree knowing what I feel about the regular food. So they're taking specific actions. And that's also making them aware of what type of food am I eating then? If I'm buying food around the world for my dog, what type of food am I eating and does it have nutrition? When my father died in February 2022, I had a spiritual awakening. In Western world, we would call it a nervous breakdown. I started to hear his voice and then voices from my ancestral lineage. And he would wake me up in the mornings at 3 a.m. He would turn on my computer, he would move the cursor and show me things. Now, some of the things that he showed me and some of the things he led me into, I did not realize were karmic. I did not realize were people that had done harm to me in past lives that needed to be cleared out to get to this new chapter. I was naive and I like always want to heal things and just be a team player and bring my toolkit in and help everybody. And I learned really that that's not the intention of a lot of people, specifically that I was addressing through my lineage. I was addressing hardcore um, past life programs. And I'm really proud of myself because in the means of that, I've seen how I have cleared out my past life programs. I have healed and taken accountability for things that I have done wrong to come into, full self-love and full responsibility and accountability of what I'm creating at this moment, at this time, but understanding who I was in a past life and understanding, without these pictures, without us remembering, they write the history stories. And just like recently, I've been talking locally to a lot of people about the water corruption and the healing waters in PA and seeing how mesmerized people are about this information. I mean, they're mesmerized by it. But if we erase that information, what are we erasing? And it's just like the women in my lineage on my mom and dad's side, when we're erasing the memories of the truth of what happened to them, like myself. Candy knows what happened to me from age 8 to 9. She knows that my mother wasn't well and possessed. Where did those programs come from? Was she repeating this? What is her storyline? What there are, it's interesting. I unsubscribe to everything on YouTube every day. I don't watch a lot of things, but I see what my ancestors bring up for me to watch as a teaching tool. And there are two different categories right now they're very focused on, which one I'm going to talk about in a moment. But there's another part of history that people are very focused on right now with some past life rulers, let's just say that. And they're totally off on a lot of information. And I know this for a fact. They're totally off. But we write stories to brainwash the collective into certain programming. There was a choice within this last group cult group, and it's large groups, Georgia, California, Florida, that made decisions on their own programming or lack of to target me in a way that was unproductive for their karmic lineage and their ancestors. In fact, some of their ancestors are my ancestors and they're not happy. But also, they just simply don't actually understand anything that they're talking about at all. And I could break all of that down, but I'm not assigned to teach them because they didn't pass any of what we would call earth tests. And when I talk about Candy and God, I lost God when I was being choked and almost murdered by my mother. My mother lost God, even if she was preaching the Bible. What's going on right now on earth? But when I was faced with spells and voodoo and not the voodoo, the real voodoo is actually holistic work. Hollywood and social media use the word voodoo when it's really witchcrafting and slave ownership mentality. A real voodoo practitioner, which is not something I practice or follow, is somebody that you come to them. Oh, I have a sore throat. Great. These are the herbs I want you to take. We talk emotionally. I write some notes. I pull out a doll. I put acupuncture pins in the throat. You leave for a week. I pray over you to heal. You come back. Are you healed? Great. Take the pins out. If not, maybe we need to relocate them. That is actually the truth of what voodoo is, not what Hollywood created, not what the witchcrafting Satanists created, the slave owner mentality, which was never what Mother Earth was about. it needs to go. But like I said earlier, the wars don't end until those that are here heal the war within them. I do think it is going to be harder to get on Mother Earth moving forward. Confirmation. And I do know now more than ever that no darkness will ever take me over, that I will continue to work on myself and be light and unconditional love. I will not accept darkness. The debts are important for you to pay. And that goes to the spiritual council. I do believe in spiritual court because Harriet Tubman has been in spiritual court for weeks. And not one person has spoken about that. That's alarming to me in the Black American community right now. That is actually being targeted greatly in their neighborhoods by the data centers that don't have proper psychic medium leadership to lead through to empower people to be smarter, healthier immediately with tools that matter, that don't have direct connections to ancestors because they're listening to people all day long online. And I'm telling you right now, Harriet Tubman's been in spiritual court for a couple weeks now, and she is fierce on the other side. She has witnessed, just like everybody else, everything that happened to me with everyone that turned a blind eye, or those that conspired and took the money deals. And it has brought utter peace to me to surrender. That's what I've been practicing for the last 3 weeks, 4 weeks, is surrendering in a way that I didn't think it was even possible. That's what's so great about dogs. You can surrender in their arms. You can cry and they'll show up because they care. And then you can feed them healthy, beautiful food and healthy water because you love them. That's unconditional love. You show up for people during tough times. You don't laugh at them. You don't ridicule them. You don't try to hurt them. That is Satanism. I have lived a life of taking responsibility for evil, actually, in some ways. That programming is gone. There was a conflict that happened in my neighborhood directly to me, and it was great. It was a great test. And I handled it with love in my voice, clear boundaries, and clear calling out this person. And there was no waiver. And this person surrendered to me in apologizing and taking full accountability. And it was an uncomfortable situation. I'd rather not be in these situations anymore. I'd rather be around more light beings. But at the same time, I knew that my spiritual team was proud of me because all the inner work that I've been doing behind closed doors, not on the screen, faking it. I don't believe in fake it till you make it. It's a great saying. And yes, it can, but I think when you are a healer, a shaman, a mystic, you better be fasting and getting offline months at a time. You better know that your ancestors are in spiritual court and why. Or what are you doing? Animals. My dad directed me to a practitioner when he passed away. I read her resume. I remember seeing her auric field online. She had a bright auric field. She was a dancer. When I went to the location, it was an actual weird building. It was an old elementary school that I learned later my mother went to. Full circle. The address was 1100. If you know, you know. and she had to move locations in the building, but it was very much like the Matrix, very odd, law firm here, children's care there, empty rooms everywhere, mostly an abandoned building. You'd never think there was a practitioner in there, and I loved it. I love that type of setting. Beware of the flashy, popular things online. Beware. So I started going there, and she was my TAP student at Point Park University. But I forgot about her. I taught thousands of kids all over the world. And she held space for some pretty serious generational trauma being released. My body was in really bad shape. My father was in the room a lot. And Brother Michael, not Archangel Michael, who I speak to all day, every day now, and am best friends with. I love Archangel Michael. Thank you so much for protecting me, my house, everything. I go through the whole list. If you feel like somebody's Satanisms are attacking you, go to Jesus Christ and go to Archangel Michael immediately. Protect your animals, protect your house, protect your land. That's a ritual I will do for the rest of my life. And it feels good. And so I started going and working with Kinesis. She was trauma informed, which was great because that's important. I was doing a lot of different things within the work, and I allowed myself to take off the masks and was talking to my dad, and she started to feel their energies and became intuitive, which was awesome. She is a dog lover, has 2 dogs, and one would come one time, one would come the other time, 2 very different personalities. One is disabled, which was fascinating. One was not. But there was one session where, and you have to understand, like, Brother Michael is a big appearance. Like, he he changed my whole perspective. Like, I grew up blue collar. His brother grew up blue collar. We didn't grow up psychic, medium, all these things. And then all of a sudden, he's coming in because of his scent. I know it's him. I'm feeling an energy change. I'm always uplifted when he's around. He was my cheerleader coach, my business coach, my training coach. And now he's there, but now she's smelling his scent and people coming in. So he's visiting people. And my questions is it just people in the soul family? Is it people doing healing work? Why do some people smell and know he's there and some people don't? It's fascinating. So you have to understand all these spiritual experiences were happening in this building. So one day she had one of her dogs there who is really in tune with me. And he kept going to the second door as if somebody was at the door. And I said to her, "Can you open that door? I think there's an energy that wants to come in this room." And so she opened it and it was Candy. And that dog knew that an energetic, angelic dog was coming in. And it was really cool. I said, "That's Candy." And I said, that's my first dog. And she was coming into the second dark night of the soul that I was healing ancestrally, providing that space of awareness, teaching me that you're not alone, even though you feel like you're alone because human beings have judged you and abandoned you and have, put the predator on the pedestal and don't ask you any questions. Don't talk to the victim. Just, oh, all this stuff that many of you as victims have experienced, right? This is coming out. And I'm so glad that more people who are victims are speaking out of the imbalance. It's not even balanced. It's so imbalanced. But when you're not writing history, right, about some of the rulers, when you're lying about their relationships, when you're lying about who they are because you don't know and you want to filtrate in certain ideas, we don't have true representation of healing. And so Candy was there holding space again. And in this last ending of my second dark night of the soul, which was really traumatic and heartbreaking and disappointing and evil, I mean, I can say I was scared last year. Just like when I was a little girl, I was scared and I was confused of what to do. I had a lot of people coming at me. I didn't know. I was naive. I am fully aware of everything that happened, and I have fully notated it all to Harriet Tubman and the spiritual team's counsel to surrender that. That's a teaching in itself of how we move on. There's no forgiveness, there's no acknowledgement. It's done. All I can do now is learn what I need to learn so I don't have to ever repeat those energies again. Because what I see now and in my future and in the new earth, we won't have all of the Satanism we have right now and the evilness. The spiritual laws will be honored again. You do something, you're out immediately. You don't get to jump around and try to buy your way out and hide. And so I just have found peace in allowing others on the other side to handle it and trust that they are handling it because I'm going on with my life. I'm going on with sharing these stories of the importance. And so through all of this transition, I am no longer afraid of evil. In fact, the cowardness of it is disheartening. To bully someone in light and to think that you can prance on stages. And my biggest warning to anybody listening to this video, and a lot of dog lovers probably don't follow the trauma field or these other healing lanes, and that's fine, but you might be interconnected. This is a deep dive. Not all my animal videos will be this, but I had to go here today, is that you don't know anyone. Even the people you're around, you need to be around them for a while to know what's going on. That's why I loved when people would fly in to work with me as a coach, as a healer for 3 to 10 days, because they would sit at a restaurant, they would see the water systems in my house, they would talk to my neighbors, my brother has met some of my clients. I am who I am off camera. I'm a good human being. I'm not perfect, but I'm a good human being, and I'll apologize when I need to, and I'll correct myself when I need to. But I'm not going to hide my light and my unconditional love anymore. The vow I made as a child during that crisis, if you cannot handle my light, get out of the way. Because the passion and the stories and the healing that I have, well, time will show. So for my animal lovers, specifically dogs, Shelties, if you're specifically in America, we have a crisis going on. It's called data centers. You want to become educated in your state. You want to become educated on the locations and how you can be a part of saying stop. Now, the big money guys, the billionaires, the billionaire clubs, and I hate to say it, a lot of the white guys, they think this stuff's great. But as you listen to Erin Brockovich, and I would listen to her in interviews, this isn't just a water issue that people are now losing their water and the water they have is brown. This is a life issue. This is a web issue. This deals with electricity bills, water issues, infrastructure, and noise. And the noise is important for animals. The noise that's coming out, the frequency that's affecting everybody, giving them PTSD, is killing the animals and they're not able to procreate. That's a fact. Do your research. Don't do your follow the billionaire research, follow Erin Brockovich, because her wording is very important. This is not just a water issue anymore. This is a livelihood issue. And that frequency, I know how they work. The Satanists, however way you want to define them, the dark, the people who are just obsessed with money and control. It's not a coincidence. And if you have poverty or sickness in one area, that grows as a virus. If we don't all see the issues at hand. So the first thing is putting a stop to any other data centers being built. And the second issue is how is whoever going to be accountable for the bills, the livelihood, the safety of animals, and the health of the neighbors. The war doesn't end until the war inside ends. I would strongly be careful about who you're subscribing to because you fund them when you subscribe. I'd be strongly concerned about who you're buying from. And I would take note of who is pushing all of these. I would even say AI would disagree with the data centers, have more consciousness than that, more respect for animal life, for human life. You want to create better jobs? I could give you a list of how to do that differently if you actually respect animal and human life. So a lot of these billionaires who own money in this, do they know any of their past lives? Do they know anything about karma? Do they know anything about spirituality? Because we know a lot of people, and we don't have the full list of Epstein files, were the spiritual teachers, were the religious leaders, and we're hurting energies, children, animals. If you're on my channel, Heather Ann Ferri, you are your leader in your household. You are the leader when you look at these animals that you're taking care of. That's why I have courses. There's going to be more courses. That's why I have private workshops and events that I may never mention online. Because there were private meetings to create these data centers that went up so quickly that they bypassed all regulations in construction. The billionaire club, and I'm not saying all billionaires, but all billionaires should really be concerned. They have power, they have responsibility with their leadership for America. That is crashing in more ways than one. So if you're an animal lover, this is destroying the sound frequency. If you understand sound frequency healing, that's why when people have sleeping disorders or sleeping issues, we say, put on this frequency, this tone. Do you think that they know what they're doing? They know what they're doing. And so you want to become very active and you want to talk to your neighbors about it. We, the people, have to come together. We don't have to have the same religion. We don't have to have the same color. We just have to care about human and animal life, soil and water. We don't have to be right. We don't have to be left. We have to come together because this is growing in America now as a virus. And I have zero respect for the leaders on these platforms that aren't talking about this 24/7 and at the data centers doing research and doing something about it. You don't got my vote. You don't have my respect. Erin Brockovich is the only one collecting an enormous amount of data. And it's just like trauma work. I mastered 8 sciences. If you follow me, Heather Ann Ferri, it's the same messaging in each state, it's the same thing. It's science to her, but it's not just a water issue. I want to stress that. And so I thank you. I went really deep at the end here, but I'm intense and I'm passionate. And if you'd like to do a private session with me, you can reach out at youmatter108@gmail.com. I can also advise you and do a session in regards to your animal. And I thank you so much. I send you love and positivity and blessings and empowerment that you are the leader in your household. You're the leader in your family. You're the leader in your community. Leaders read books. Leaders write in cursive every day. Leaders meditate. Leaders do not just listen randomly to things all day long. So you'll probably get a lot more information from your cat, your dog, your bird if you start tuning into them. Let me know. I'd love to hear from you, and I send you many blessings.